really special guest, so don't go anywhere. Hey, Carrie.
Hi, Josh.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Good.
How about you?
Good.
Yeah.
I'm a little sweaty.
I know. I was just thinking, how can I send a message to our front office to go turn the heat
I
down?
know. With all these lights and everything around us that people can't see.
It heats it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when our guest walked in with a jacket on, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to burn up.
Yeah, get a little warm.
Yeah. So, but anyways, we have a really important topic to discuss. Something we haven't discussed on the podcast yet, but it's very important. And I thought our guest that I'll introduce here in just a minute, somebody that I met through my kids' sports, and he has written a book on this very topic, and I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to bring him on and let him talk about the book, and also to address some nuances to domestic abuse that doesn't get talked about or might get missed or something like that. So we're going to do that. But before we get into that, let me just go over a little bit of the housekeeping things. Just the typical things, like if you're watching us on Facebook, we really appreciate that, but we would love it if you headed over to YouTube as well and subscribe to our channel there and ring that bell so you can be notified when more of our videos are posted. But we will re-upload this video to the podcast channels so that, usually it's a little more of a crispier version of the podcast, do a little bit of editing. And we also add a lot of resources to the show notes. So I think right now in the show notes, the book that we're going to talk about or that Brian has written is already linked. So whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can check that out right now. But we'll try to even put even more resources in the show notes in the description of the rebroadcast, when we do that. So
Okay, good.
Okay, so let me give just an episode breakdown, and then I'll introduce our guest. So we're going to talk about breaking free of domestic abuse, and we're going to start out with just talking about the many forms of it. So it may or may not surprise people that there are different forms. It takes many faces, many shapes. We're going to talk about gaslighting, psychological control, and then move into the challenges of leaving, which is a really big deal. And then maybe Brian can guide us on just some practical first steps of getting out.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So let me introduce our guest. Our guest today is Brian Putnam. He is a practicing attorney, a family law attorney. They also do other types of law at his firm. And he is also a published author. He's authored the book, Escaping Domestic Abuse, A Guide to Breaking Free. And we're going to talk about how he got into that and the content, kind of the contents of the book and why it's important for people to get this book too, or just to be privy to the information that's in it. And so, Brian, thanks for being with us today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Yeah, you found us this morning.
I did.
Yeah. So it turns out you were already seeing clients this morning.
Well, I had some calls I had to make. Returned some calls, and it was everything's an emergency on a Friday.
It's true.
Right.
That is true.
The Fridays are different when you're our age. It
Right.
seems like that's not like it was.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I'm excited it's Friday. I'm like, no, I got stuff to do.
You're right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I have more to do on Friday than I did on Monday.
Yeah, I have to wrap it up. I know.
Exactly.
I know.
Well, we really appreciate you being here and doing this, and just kind of start out with, we often don't think of attorneys being involved with. I mean, legally we know, like, we're recommending people you need to find an attorney. We don't give legal advice. When these types of situations, you need to find an attorney. But to have an attorney actually write a book on how to do this is, I've just never seen that before. And maybe I'm just, not informed enough. But is that pretty common? Or?
Well, I'm not going to say how common it is. To your point earlier about asking me how I got into it. Somebody asked me just the other day actually why I wrote this book, like why this particular topic. And that was a good question. Fair. I was an officer in the military, later on a commander, and I dealt with this in war zones. I dealt with it in peacetime, Washington, D.C., Las Vegas, wherever I was stationed. You get a very broad cross-section of our culture when you are in the military.
Right.
It gets exacerbated in a deployed location. For instance, you get these young airmen or officers who get that Dear John letter. Or they hear from their best friend that their wife is doing such and such with so-and-so, and they can't do anything about it. Well, can you think about how they can't do anything about it? They can't go home, barely can call home, and have any kind of closure. Let alone just kind of, be able to defend themselves or their actions or whatever. So they sit overseas for months and months and months just with this festering.
Sure.
And then they come home and guess what?
Yeah.
Right.
They just explode.
Yeah.
So you can see where this might come from.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, obviously, here in the United States, we don't have that kind of problem to deal with. However, there's no saying, be kind to everybody you see because you don't know what
they're going through
battles they're fighting, right? Or everybody's fighting a silent battle, or what you've heard some form of that. Well, I wrote this book because I saw in my military career and in choosing to do family law a need to address this type of topic.
Right.
So there's the why. And I just mentioned you never know how many people are dealing with what.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
at the time I wrote this book, which actually was a couple of years ago, I just finally got it published, but the numbers on this are staggering.
Yeah.
24% of women, 13% of men are victims of abuse. Now let me be clear. We're not talking violence per se. We're talking abuse. That's an umbrella.
Right.
Right.
Abuse is a subset of that.
Right.
When you think we have 340 million people in this country as of the 2022 data, 24% is 81 million women.
Wow. Yeah.
And
That's
13%.
One in
Yeah,
four.
1 in 4.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And 13% of men, 1 in 7.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
44 million men. Now that's just what's reported.
Right.
Right.
So during
yeah.
a part of my military career, I was with Office of Special Investigations, which is basically their FBI. And I can assure you the numbers on that are much higher.
Much higher. Sure.
That don't get reported.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's why. There's my why.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are
Right.
a lot of people dealing with this who go through it, and it seems there's no one there to help. They don't know who to turn to. There's an insurmountable problem in front of them, and a lot of people, sadly, end up taking their own lives because of it.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So there has to be a way to break the cycle. We have to find a way to stop it.
That's interesting. It's like you can speak to this, but it's almost like you're implying that when the title of your book is Escaping Domestic Abuse. So there's this kind of anybody that sees that might think like, oh, this is going to help if I'm a victim of domestic abuse. This is something I could get to help me learn how to get away from it. But it's almost in a way what you're saying too. In a way, it kind of even protects the abuser or the potential abuser in a sense. Like if we can help people get away from these types of situations, and maybe even that person can get the help that they need. Because when you were talking about it, I could tell you even had compassion for the person who is getting the Dear John letter. Like there's a story there, right? And so it's not just about helping people get out of difficult situations, maybe even like preventative measures too, of like that's also like somebody getting themselves out of a dangerous situation is also helpful to the person who for some reason has become dangerous.
This book, so my target audience is not necessarily the actual victim. Because if you think about it, somebody who's in a dangerous situation is probably not going to have this book lying around their coffee
that could
table.
be dangerous.
Right, sure.
That could be even worse.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course.
This is for the families or the friends
Oh, okay.
or the therapists, or
Right.
you know, who may see some red flags that we are going to talk about
Right.
later.
Yeah.
Who may, he's in a certain,
Yeah.
or I've seen her husband or his girlfriend do certain things, and that there's some, it might trigger some knowledge that they may not
Right.
have had.
That's great.
That might
Yeah.
help them put a finger. But yes, if the second or third orders of effect here, the ripple effect, if you
Right.
will. Yeah, if somebody is cognizant enough of their own behavior to pick up a book like this and realize, ooh, have I been doing that? Well, then sure.
Right.
That would be wonderful if they would be, self-realization is a great thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And help themselves
Right.
prevent or at least don't do any more damage.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but even to the friends, the family that read the book too, like, it doesn't seem like you have any interest in. I'm not interested in vilifying the person who's lost their mind in a moment or has a pattern of it. We're just interested in getting people to safety, and that is the best spot for people to be in to get the help that they need on all fronts.
That's correct. This
Yeah.
is not to point fingers at anybody. This is to help people recognize what situation they're in
Right.
Yeah.
and provide some methods of getting out.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, there's something you said earlier. You said you haven't ever talked about this before. I would argue that you have. Maybe not in so many words, but 2 or 3 times. You did a podcast about a year ago on
Brian did his research.
on
Good.
scary relationships.
Oh,
we sure
yeah,
did,
we
didn't
did
we?
our Halloween episode.
Yeah,
It was
we
about
did do that.
about a 48-minute deal, and I looked at all of it. And you spoke on the toxicity of relationships.
Yeah.
I would say that directly ties into this.
Sure.
Right.
Dangerous partners, how to detox, managing,
Yeah.
Right.
most significantly, managing the emotional aftermath. Now, I thought that was a great. I wish you would have gone a little more on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would have liked to hear what your thoughts on that were. But you did mention gaslighting. I think we'll talk a little bit about that. That's really just one tactic that people use. It's not an. I
Right.
mean, it could be an entire chapter of a book.
Oh,
for
for
sure.
sure.
I'm
For sure.
Yeah.
We'd like to write it. Yeah.
I'm not that informed. But you said there are 12 types of gaslighting, which I found,
Right.
and I've never heard that.
Well,
I'd
that's
like to hear about that.
Yeah, that's something new that because you always hear gaslight's kind of become a term that we're
Pop culture
pop
term.
culture terms been popularized, and so you'll hear people talk about the 4 types or this types, and I was like, man, I feel like there's a lot more, and so I just kind of sat down and kind of was really just kind of breaking down what it is, and there's I don't want to give too much away here, but there might be a project in the horizon on that coming up. But that was something just coming that I put together.
Well, you said you wrote a paper on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'll give you a plug there. Where
Yeah,
can
that's
people,
right.
where can people find that?
Well,
That's-
right now on our
it's
it's supposed
on-
to be on our website, but
Yeah.
there's some website difficulties. But eventually, it can be found on our blog on our
on the
website,
blog,
which
on
is
the website, yeah.
familysolutions.ok.com. But
Yeah.
thank you for
Yeah.
that.
All right.
Yeah.
But,
Well, this
Yeah.
book is divided into 5 parts.
Okay.
And if it's okay, I'd like to just kind of tell
please,
people
break it
Yeah.
down for us.
how to read this book.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
so it is not intended to be a doctoral dissertation and break down to the technicalities of all types of tactics and weaponization of tactics in a domestic abuse situation. It is intended to be a self-help. I don't want to say trigger. I don't want to give people that kind of anxiety. It is intended to, I will use the word trigger, certain thoughts that might enable them to
Okay.
recognize their situation.
Like prompt, maybe?
Prompt is a
Okay.
better
There you go.
word,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So the first part is understanding domestic abuse.
Okay. Yeah.
So we talked about the numbers, just the staggering numbers. 50% of men and women are victims of psychological abuse and aggression in their relationships. That 340 million divided by 2, right? Do the math, right? So
Right.
that's I can't even comprehend what
Right. It's overwhelming.
the
Yeah, it
number
is.
there.
Yeah.
It is.
The forms, we talk about the forms of domestic abuse. There's physical, I think everybody's very familiar with that. No reason to foot stomp that. There's sexual.
Sure.
Now, without delving into that, there is one end of the spectrum would be withholding. The other end of the spectrum would be overly aggressive.
Like withholding in like punitive type.
In punitive,
Right.
correct.
Right.
And then, of course, obviously punitive with
Right. Sure.
being too aggressive.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
aggressive.
100%. Yeah.
Some people are into that, but notwithstanding,
Not
You're not talking about-
permission,
yeah.
right?
right,
without
right. There's
consent and
consent,
permission.
right?
Right.
Boundaries. There is emotional and psychological. Now, there's your gaslighting.
Right.
There's your love bombing.
Yes.
Love bombing. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
There's
It's
your
kind of a new
isolate.
term. Yep.
Yeah, there's your isolate. Yeah, so we can talk about love bombing a little bit. A lot of people hadn't heard that term. So that is basically the abuser realizing he's about to lose his paramour and coming back on his knees and the flowers and the I love yous and the baby please and then when he gets her back or she gets him back, then the cycle starts all over again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
We have
It's a form of
isolate.
gaslighting too, by the way. But,
Okay.
Yep.
We have isolation.
Yes.
I'm going to cut you off from all your friends, all your family, all your coworkers. You better you go to work, you come home.
Sure. Cut off from financial information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Financial is the next piece.
Okay, yeah.
Now, I will it arguably, to me, that's the one that has the most significant and longer lasting impact, financial abuse.
Okay.
Let's come back to it though.
Okay.
The last form is spiritual abuse. People will use religion. God said I can do this, or
Sure.
or I'm not going to let you go worship, or something to that effect.
Sure.
Financial abuse. So you hear all the time, why don't you just leave?
Yes.
If you're in a situation like this and you hear your family, why don't you just leave? Okay. Well, sometimes, and I'm going to use women because they are more numerically impacted
Right.
than men,
Sure.
but just take it as a whole. It could be men, could be women, but
Right.
just for simplicity's sake. We have a woman in a relationship such as that. The husband or the boyfriend has cut her off from her former career. Now she's home raising 2 small kids. She has no job. She hadn't worked in 20 years.
Sure.
So no current skills, certainly not a resume.
Right.
We've got 2 kids, ages 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Certainly not self-sufficient,
Right.
but boy, expensive.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We're out of diapers, but we're into all kinds of other stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Excuse me. He has the money. He has the credit cards. She has no separate bank account. Where's she going to go?
I know.
How's she going to go?
Right.
It-
Yeah.
So,
But that's also not even to mention the biological component and the differences in men and women when it comes to the kids. Because I don't know if you've heard the expression that women become mothers at conception and men become fathers at birth. You know, just this idea. You know, like they're developing an attachment to those kids. It's something that we just can't understand, and even I think from a evolutionary perspective, like it's in their DNA. You know, so women are much more natural nurturers, and so from psychological and emotional perspective, like much harder for them to leave, even if they had the financial means to get out.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, certainly, there are, again, I'm not a doctor, but there are certain chemical reactions, I think, that mothers have at conception and
Yeah.
things happen.
And I would argue that you are a doctor because you have a JD.
Well, I am a doctor. Yes. So,
we just
this-
can't call you Dr. Brian while you're right at the
Yeah.
rule. While you're practicing attorney, you can't.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this leads me to it's a little bit of a sidebar, but I'm going to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, but I'm going to come back out. So right now, our statutes provide for the expungement of criminal records, nonviolent, but felonies, forging checks, breaking and entering, things like that. So a person can commit a felony in our state, or misdemeanor, and serve a time or have a deferred sentence, whatever, and can apply to have that record expunged. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. On the civil side, let's say somebody gets evicted from an apartment or a mortgage foreclosed. That stays on your record forever. Okay? What about a person who's the victim of domestic abuse, who was evicted through no fault of their own?
Right.
Who the mortgage was foreclosed, right? So now, not only do they possibly have a financial problem with no money, no credit, no way to go leave the relationship, now they can't probably even get a place to live. So I'm working with, I approached a friend of mine, he's State Representative Andy Fugate out of Del City a few months ago, and we are working to try to update our laws on that. So more to come. Great. At least to provide the possible avenue for somebody who can show that they're a victim of domestic abuse, and they've got this financial problem on their credit, on their record, and try to get that removed. There's no sense in having that stay there. I don't see the efficacy. I don't see the fairness.
It doesn't tell a real story.
No, it does not. So there's just an aside that, but our laws don't even really help our domestic victims very much. Right. At least not as much as they could.
Which is, and I will say that that's something I think that Josh and I both notice, is that when we're working with our clients that are, in some of these situations, we're often saying you need to go consult an attorney, because like you said, we don't know all the laws, and they are hard to understand, and especially for people that are under stress. You know how hard it is to make decisions and to absorb information anyways, and so you really need somebody that is an expert, but not just an expert in the law, but expert in understanding what it's like to be working with people at that moment in time, the amount of stress that they're experiencing.
You have to have a good degree of emotional intelligence to deal with people. Yeah, with anybody really, but particularly in a domestic abuse situation. For that very reason. Now, some people can handle that direct approach, and other people need a little bit of, hand holding.
Sure.
But you cannot have a one-size-fits-all approach to dealing with people. That's a lot of time, and I've inherited a lot of clients from other attorneys who they just didn't feel like they were being listened to, or the attorney was too aggressive, or whatever. And I don't cast aspersions on anybody else out there. If you're licensed in this state to practice law, you've passed the bar, you've done a good job. Please listen to your clients. They're not just money; they are people. I mean, we got to get paid for what we do. Don't get me wrong, but you don't do family law to get rich. This is not.
There was another avenue.
We're not retiring to Barbados on this. No, we are. I chose to do this to help people because I get a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment out of doing that. It makes my life feel like it matters.
Sure.
So the effects of domestic abuse, physical injury, that's the most obvious. Emotional trauma, psychological impact, PTSD, nightmares, social isolation, financial hardship, health consequences. You got your cardio problems, you got GI issues, a lot of people. So
maybe you get dysregulated, it can create a plethora
cascade
of
it could certainly it could have a ripple effect on the rest of your life as well.
100%.
And let's just say you do have a job, but if you're always calling in sick because you got these other psychological problems that you haven't worked out, well, now you're going to lose your job.
That's right.
I had heard a doctor say once that sometimes people have a lot of things wrong, and sometimes they have one thing wrong. But it's just dysregulated the whole thing.
But that one thing could really be the catalyst for the linchpin as
that's what he's talking
for
about.
Everything else. Right. Well, that's the first part. So how to understand the first part is this is your encyclopedia of domestic abuse. What is it? What's the problems? What are the signs you need to recognize? The second part is healing the wounds. So people experience trauma from abusive relationships. Now, this will piggyback a little on the effects. Now, throughout this book, I do repeat a lot of terms because these are not mutually exclusive terms. They all flow together. So people do have the effects of emotional distress, insomnia, anxiety, avoidance, depression, hypervigilance.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you deal with some people coming here really jumpy.
A lot.
Yeah.
So that's there's your wounds, there's your trauma. And this is where therapists come in. Now you can engage in, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I'm aware of cognitive behavioral therapy, eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing, EMDR. I heard that once only a few years ago. Find it interesting.
We do that here.
Trauma-focused therapy, support groups. There are, of course, you can point people to the DV hotlines, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But there's a national hotline, there's a state hotline. Different. I didn't put these phone numbers in the book because phone numbers have a tendency to change.
I know.
Sure.
As do websites.
Right.
So I just want to just kind of prompt people to, here's where you can go.
Right.
Okay. Self-help, meditation. Now, a lot of people don't know how to do that, but that could be just as simple as finding one quiet space for about 5 minutes and just let everything go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Breathe, don't talk, don't listen to anything, just let your mind do what it does.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you could probably also, I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but just on that piece, a lot of times when it comes to trauma, it's the being still that's the hardest. And I think there's a survivor instinct in us, and so you could probably speak to this from being someone who literally, I think I remember you telling me once that you were overseas, right? And so you've been there, and
Yeah, I've seen things that make your hair, well, your hair would have fallen out.
you had to do that, didn't you? But I think I remember somewhere someone saying if you basically if you stay still, you die. If you movement keeps you alive. So that's where the idea of sitting ducks comes in, right? You don't want to be a sitting duck. And so when you're a victim of, when you're dealing with that trauma response or that trauma wound, the being still is, you're 100% right. Very important, but probably one of the hardest things from a mental health perspective to get people to do, because that survivor brain is kicking in going, what are you doing right
Fight
now?
or flight.
Yeah. You're gonna die.
Right.
It's kind of, I always say this part of the brain doesn't have eyeballs. It just feels its way through, and it doesn't feel right. But it can't see that you're safe.
Right.
You're not in war.
Right.
Right. So I just wanted to.
No, that makes sense.
throw that out
Sometimes
there.
the right thing to do is nothing.
Yeah, and that's
But
so
it's the hardest thing to do.
100%. Yes.
And people don't understand that. I've got
Yeah.
clients all the time, not just in domestic abuse situations, but in regular family law situations. They want to go.
Right.
We've got to file this, and I
Right.
got to object to that.
Right.
No. Shh.
Right. Yeah.
We got this.
Did we
Yeah.
just hear an attorney say shh?
I know, I love it.
It's not, you don't always have to. I had a
Yeah.
guy one time tugging on my jacket in front of the judge. She's lying. You have to object. No, just let her talk.
Let it be.
Right.
Because the judge can see she's lying, and he's giving her rope to hang herself. Just,
Right.
just
Right.
let it go, man.
Right.
And
Right.
we won, and he's like, "Oh, I see what you were doing now." Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't make it easier.
Yeah.
Sometimes just settle down. You just
Yes.
settle down.
Yes.
So all of this plays into the third section of the book, which is rebuilding self-esteem and confidence.
Okay.
Now, there's a quote that I put in there, and I am going to read it. I don't have it memorized, but I find it very powerful. It's rebuilding self-esteem is the art of finding beauty in the broken pieces and strength in the scars. I don't remember the name of the person off the top of my head who wrote that. I'll see if I can find it real quick. But I'm gonna, because I want to give credit.
Give credit to it.
So rebuilding, Ava Johnson. I found that somewhere. What she's saying is, don't try to erase your history. Learn from it. Don't try to forget all of this happened. Sometimes the best way around a storm is just go right through it. Or
Right.
the shortest way, I guess,
Yeah.
would just
Yeah.
go right through it. Deal with it. Because if you don't deal
most
with it,
effective way.
all you're doing
Yeah.
is kicking the can down the road.
Yes.
You have to confront the feelings. Let those emotions process. Let them do what they're going to
Do
do
their
to you,
job.
for you, with you. Because if you don't do that, you're never going to fully realize your human self again. I don't think.
Yeah.
I'll kick that over to
Yeah,
you.
no, I think that's a part of therapy for sure. Yeah.
The metaphor is really nice too. Is like you've driven on the roads before where you've seen where someone's built the road on the mountain, and where people, and then there's, especially here in Oklahoma, where they just blown right through it, right? You know,
Right.
And I'm like, like, does the mountain, is the pieces that made that mountain a mountain are still there, but it's not a mountain anymore, because it's just so blowing through it, like you're talking about, is, in my opinion, the most effective way to deal with this, because you can build roads over it, under it, around it, but it's still a mountain.
Yeah. Got to go through it. Mm-hmm.
I think in the last chapter we're going to come back to that part. I think what you just said there is very important. One of the ways to begin healing is to practice self-care. We talked about that briefly, right? Meditation. Yeah. So it's easy to say, but what does it mean? What does self-care actually mean? What is that? When you tell people to practice self-care, what do you tell them? How do you say that to them?
Yeah. Well,
how do you guide them on that?
Usually you ask them, what does it mean to you, of course, right? Mm-hmm. Because it is different to other people, especially if you're in a really chaotic environment.
Agree.
It can look like 5 minutes, right, of stepping outside, to take a deep breath of outside air. For some people it's, hot baths with bubbles. It can depend. Yeah. I mean, it can depend on where you're at, but I think that when you're looking at it from a crisis trauma lens too, self-care has to fit for the moment, right? In the perfect self-care, you get 8 hours of sleep, sunlight in your eyes in the morning and in the evening, all of those kind of things. But sometimes in these moments, it can look like, talking to a friend, right? It can look like, breathing and being still. And if this book is also written to family and friends of people seeing this, they can be a vessel, perhaps, for self-care for people that may be going through this, right?
When you say in our analysis of it, though, like, we're probably in determining what they need, we're looking at balance, right?
Yeah, I think balance is a good word.
To help determine, do we need to focus on, self-care in terms of your physical needs, or do we need to focus on being still, as we mentioned earlier?
Do we need more connection, community connection?
Right, so that's why it's unique to an individual, but I think all in all, as we've talked, like the teeter-totter type thing, so you keep in balance. And by the way, you are welcome to adjust your mic as it falls down on you.
I've tried and it fell again, so
I'm
kind of
you might have to just hold it with that hand.
Good, that'll be fun. I'll just stand here and hold this.
So light in the eyes in the morning is great. I get that, but I get a cat in my face.
I do too. I have a cat on my shoulder. Yes.
The wet nose and okay. I enjoy it sometimes, but not on a Saturday.
I know. They don't have weekends.
Cat.
I know.
So cats don't
care.
So for me, one of the ways to begin healing, engage in physical exercise. Whatever that means to somebody, whether it's working out, whether it's yoga, whether it's going for a run, whether it's just doing some body weight stuff. Just move the body. Just do something that releases the endorphins, that releases stress, everything that goes along with it. Boosts your mental well-being, your cognitive function. Look after your nutritional needs. A lot of people stress eat, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you've seen a lot of that. And it's easy, particularly in our society, to fall into the trap of the fast foods.
Sure.
I don't have time to cook. I don't feel like cooking. And now that let's say you've escaped from this situation, now you're just uber depressed and you just don't want to do anything but eat crap. And you got to look after yourself. Okay. Now, kind of coming back to recognizing and validating your feelings. You have every right to feel the way you do about what has just happened to you, about what you have been through. And ignoring those feelings is, like I said, it's just going to kick the can down the road. You have to deal with them at some point, or you're never going to heal. You're never going to rebuild your self-esteem or your confidence. Keep a journal. Now, there's a twofold benefit to this. I know it's tough to do, diary, if you will. It's tough to do. But number one, it allows you to memorialize the feelings that you've had, and you can go back and reference them later. Number two, you may be thinking of something on a Thursday, and you've got a counseling session next Tuesday, but by the time you come back in next Tuesday, you wouldn't remember. Maybe you forgot about what you were thinking, and that might actually be a linchpin to something that would set you on a path toward on a corrective path in your counseling. So it would help you guys. If people would keep a journal.
Helpful.
Of course, meditation and just relaxation. So setting boundaries. We talked about setting boundaries earlier, right? Set boundaries and consequences. I need some space right now. I feel uncomfortable when you raise your voice at me. I don't feel comfortable talking about that with you. Here's your consequences. If you continue to ignore my boundaries, I'm going to limit our interactions. That's huge.
Yeah.
If you continue to do this, I'm going to reconsider our relationship.
Sure.
What was that?
Well, no, I'm just thinking these are things that we do a lot. Right?
Yeah.
I think that sometimes what people are struggling with is, well, legally, what can I do about any of this stuff, right?
Well,
Especially if you're in a legal marriage.
There you go.
Or share property, right?
If you keep doing this, I'll take legal action.
Because the reason why I called that, I don't care, because as you're talking, both of us we're just going through the Rolodex of clients we've worked with all these years, and all of a sudden Carrie's like, because there's some memory.
Thinking of it, and then I don't know what to tell you when you say, what do I do if I tell them they can't come back to the house? The police do I call? What do they do?
So let's talk about that. I have had plenty of situations where a woman stays, and again, this could be men.
Sure.
Yeah, it's okay. Because you said it's 1 in 4 women, so it's mostly women.
It does primarily and predominantly affect women, but I think it affects more men than men. Because I'm a man, I'm not going to admit it.
I'm not going to talk about
100%.
that.
I've had several comments on my posts. I posted that I was going to do this, and I posted I released my book. A lot of people have interacted, and I've seen some comments out there that have said, women do more than men and all this. I'm not going to get into that, but I will say that men just tend to underreport more than they should. Because of the social stigmas of it.
I would agree with you.
Oh, you let her do that to you. Ha, 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 ha. Toxic masculinity.
There's
a whole book chapter right there.
Keep going.
Right? That's your next book.
So our next section, how are we doing on time?
We're getting close.
We're getting close.
Okay, so let's kind of go through the section on breaking free and safety planning. I think this is probably the most important of the chapters. So again, back to the why don't you just leave? Okay, well, where am I going to go? I can't afford it, whatever. So there may be violence involved. There may be young children involved. A person may have a history of violence. There may be small kids who, like an infant. I mean, you can't just leave. I want to piggyback on what we almost started talking about a second ago with like taking legal action. Well, I've had situations where a woman stays in the house with the kid because she heard, or her friend said that, or Dr. Google says, if she leaves the house, she'll lose the house.
Yes.
That is not necessarily true.
Okay.
Not necessary. Now, I don't, let me disclaim that this is not me providing legal advice. This is just me saying, in my experience with our legal system, that's not necessarily the case.
Okay. Right.
Just because you left a domestic abusive situation does not mean that you're not going to have any equity in the home if you go through a divorce.
Okay.
So, leave. Get out. If your life is in danger, do not stay. Get somewhere safe. Go somewhere safe. Right. So assess your situation. Assess your level of danger. Identify resources for help. This is what we talked about with our national hotline. At present, the national hotline is 800-799-SAFE. SAFE. 799-7233. The Oklahoma Safe line is 800-522-SAFE, 7233. There's also the YWCA. Now, I've toured that facility. it's nice.
Yes.
It's not necessarily in the best part of town, off of, I think, 39th Expressway, and I can't remember exactly where, but it's man, that facility is, holy cow, it's gorgeous. They've got safe room, they got safe places, for cameras everywhere. I'm an attorney, I have a state representative with me. We couldn't even get in without almost a pat down. It was just wonderful.
Right.
And they do so much there. So I just want to give them a plug and look at the YWCA.
All these links, all these things that Brian's mentioned, we'll make sure to put in the show notes and in the description when we upload this.
So you can seek local shelters and support services. Of course, you got your YWCA. There's a place called Palomar.
Yes.
Here in Oklahoma County, there's a place called Cardinal Point. In Canadian County, they do essentially the same thing. Help domestic abuse victims. You can file for victim protective orders, so on and so forth. There's the Latino Community Development Agency, the Sanctuary Women's Development Center. Lots of resources out there, so there's no reason to just sit there and flounder in your situation. You can go.
Yes.
Seek legal assistance. Don't try to do this on your own. Certainly don't sign anything that your abuser wants you to sign without somebody double checking, sanity check if nothing else.
And by the way, with legal assistance, like some attorneys will do consultations for free, and some usually will charge just a small fee for it. So it's not like you're having to like give a retainer just to
have
do
a
the consult. Right. So go have that conversation.
Go have a conversation. We certainly have consults with people all the time. I'd say a good 70% end up hiring us. But sometimes people just either don't need us, maybe because their case isn't necessarily one that they want to pursue yet, or maybe they're just not sure what they want to do in life. Okay, fine. We're here if you need us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Seek counseling and therapy, of course, and support groups.
Great.
Develop a safety plan. This is this is kind of the meat on the bone of this part. So this may need to happen over time, but you got to create a safety plan. You did not get into this situation overnight. It's going to take you a little time to extricate yourself from it.
Right.
Identify safe spaces. Where can you go when you leave? Maybe that's a friend's house, a family member. Maybe you got to get out of town. Maybe you go to a hotel that nobody knows about. Whatever. Establish a communication plan. So you create a strategy for reaching out to a trusted individual through maybe a series of code words, or maybe your abuser's monitoring your communications. Had that happen a lot.
Yes.
Maybe instead of saying "Good morning, Mom," it's "Good day, Mom." She needs help, or he needs help. Okay. Build a support network.
Yes.
Right. Friends, family, therapists, others, church members, whatever.
Right.
Pack a go bag. Nobody thinks about this. Store it at somebody else's house. You know you're going to leave at some point. You don't know when. Maybe it's going to come to a head at some point. Maybe you feel like, as soon as he gets out of town, I'm going to do whatever. Pack a few days worth of clothing, children's supplies, credit cards, birth certificates, legal documents, your mortgage, proving that your name isn't on the mortgage or that it is, whatever. All of the things that you think you can, that you're going to need to take legal action, or to just survive, or to apply for credit or whatever, and put a credit card in there. Store it at a friend's house, store it at your office, store it at some other location that the abuser does not have access to. And when it's time to go, now you're not with just the clothes on your back.
Right.
And for the sake of time, we're probably going to have to wrap up, but there's a lot more, I'm assuming, just looking at your notes in there to go ahead.
Yeah, there's just one more.
Okay.
So the final chapter, preventing domestic abuse.
Yeah.
Education and awareness. I'll just kind of carpet bomb that by saying child victims can become victims of this as well, just by seeing, if not being directly victimized. Growing up with abuse leads to hypervigilance, negative self-image, struggling to show emotions, continuing the cycle. Recognizing red flags, controlling behavior, jealousy and possessiveness, verbal abuse, emotional manipulation, physical abuse, gaslighting in its
Yes.
all 12 forms, apparently.
A lot of gaslighting involved.
Financial control, intimidation, and
Right.
threats. So going through this book, to reiterate, this is intended to get people thinking. What signs am I seeing? Now, all of these signs, these red flags, they're indicators.
Yes.
Right? They don't mean somebody's in a certain situation. Husbands and wives tell jokes on each other all the time, right? That's not abuse. You're not necessarily. Now, if you're belittling, if you're intimidating, if you're undermining, well, that may be, right?
Yeah.
But finding a way to help somebody that's in that's what this is about.
Yes,
Right.
that's what it sounds like. That's who it's written to. Yeah, and it's
Correct.
very plain speaking.
Yeah.
Like I like that it's clear and
I
plain
did
speaking.
try to get rid of the technical
Yes.
jargon and just really put it down in layman's terms.
Yes.
Something that didn't hit me until we got to talking about it is that the book is called Escaping Domestic Abuse, not domestic violence, because
Yes.
violence is just one form.
form.
Correct.
And it seems like Brian's casting a larger net here and tackling a lot of different forms.
Which I think
of
is
it.
really, really
Yeah.
important, because I would say that there
Yeah.
are some people we've worked with that have the physical violent part, but
Yeah.
really it's the financial and the emotional and the psychological and
most
the
of the time.
relational abuse that we're really trying to help people
Right.
work through.
Which doesn't always mean the person is dangerous in the physical sense.
Right.
Right. And so, but there's still having a plan and tackling some of the psychological and trauma things to help you get there
Absolutely.
is also really important. But-
Yeah, it is.
And I also wanted to say that the book is, it's not a huge book, which I think, I would imagine that's probably intentional to some degree too, because,
That's correct.
right, like, do I want to, if I'm
Right.
trying to tackle this, I want to read a 300-page.
Yeah, a big fat,
Right,
yeah,
you know,
5-inch thick
yeah.
book. Yeah.
So, and in just a little bit of reading that I did through it, I could tell like it's pretty practical.
Yeah.
It's just kind of laid out there for you to be as helpful as possible. So I really appreciate you coming here and doing
No,
that.
I really appreciate you writing this. I think it's going to be
Of
helpful.
course, the book can be found on Amazon, but can you tell everybody where they can find your practice, or the website and everything?
Yeah, sure. It's PutnamLawOffice.com. That's PUTN as in November, AM as in Mike, lawoffice.com.
Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Certainly.
And I'm going to end on a quote that you may, I do have the author of this one, and you may have heard of him. But this is a quote. It goes, self-compassion is like a magic wand for your mental health, emotional well-being, and overall happiness. It helps you build inner strength, resilience, and self-acceptance, guiding you toward a more fulfilling and compassionate way of life. That comes from you, Brian. You said that in your book.
Quoting you.
Yeah. And I wanted to end on that too, because, you know, I really do think one of the first steps, you know, in being able to do all these things that Brian's talking about doing is you got to love yourself enough to do it, you know, and having compassion for other people, and the most effective compassion you can have. If you want your compassion for other people to be effective, is the way I'm trying to say it. That begins with having compassion toward yourself.
That's right.
You
It
know,
does.
and so I really appreciate you putting that quote in your
I
book.
like it
Well,
too.
what that means is give yourself some credit. Give yourself a
Yeah.
break,
Sure.
right? Nobody's
Yeah.
perfect.
Right.
So you found yourself in a bad situation. So what? Now what?
Yeah, I
So
love
what
that.
now? What? I like it.
That's
We've heard
great.
that on the baseball field.
Yeah,
Somebody's
that's
made a
that's
mistake,
right.
right?
That's
Now
right.
what?
When my kid misses a ball, all right, come back from it. You know,
Right.
Yeah.
Learn from it.
So
right?
what? Let's go. Yep. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, thank you for being here. and
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate anybody who's watching us and supporting us. Don't forget, subscribe to our channel. Go check out the links in the description of the video.